I'd like to focus on the first reading from the book of Numbers, chapter 20, verse 1 to 13. And this will be a classic example of being careful not just to do what God asks us to do, but to be attentive of how you do it. That's the great big mistake that Moses committed, which forbade him to enter the Holy Land, the Promised Land. Now, let's see the context. First, let's be a little bit merciful on poor Moses. A couple of things are happening here. One, the first reading begins saying that Miriam died. Who's Miriam? Moses' sister. So here's Moses grieving the death of his sister. And that in of itself puts a whole context to what is Moses struggling with. He's grieving. And then on top of that he's grieving the death of his sister. Now it describes that the whole community did an intervention. It says, the community had no water, they held a council against Moses and Aaron. An intervention, and you would have hoped it would be to help him in his grieving over the death of his sister, to encourage him. Nope. They gather him in a council to make accusations. And what are the accusations? Oh, that you may have died in Egypt. Why have you, this is not against God, this is against Moses. So now it's a group, a council, a community gathered together, pointing fingers at Moses. Moses was already grieving the death of his poor sister. Why have you brought the Lord's assembly into this desert where we and our livestock are dying? So this is a personal attack, an accusation of murder. You brought us here to kill us. Imagine an entire community pointing fingers at you, accusing you of you wanting to kill them, and that's why you brought them there. You could also imagine the feelings and the sense that is happening among the community. If this is what they believe, I'm sure they're ready to stone Moses to death. I'm sure they're not just gently talking to him about, well, we feel you draw us out here to that. No, I'm sure they're pulling him, pushing him, insulting him, you. And on top of that, he's grieving. When you're grieving, we're sensitive, we're vulnerable. And then here comes what his response was, which here, let's give him much credit for how he responded. I don't know how you would respond in a situation like that, but what did Moses do? Then he says, well, Moses and Aaron went away from the assembly, breathe, count to 10, away from the violence, accusations, went away from the assembly to the entrance of the meeting tent in the presence of the Lord. To the entrance of the meeting tent, where there he fell prostrate. That's beautiful. In the midst of grieving, in the midst of accusations, in the midst of losing the esteem, admiration of the community, accusing him of murder, he just fell prostrate, literally flat on the floor, total surrender. Here I am, Lord. Grieving, accused, not knowing what to do. That's a very beautiful and highly commendable response. Now, God responds. Now, here's where the what and how. It's not just what we do, but how we do it that we must be attentive, because that's how Moses lost the privilege of being able to enter the Promised Land. So what is it that specifically God says? He says, okay, take your staff, assemble the community, you and your brother Aaron, and in their presence, order the rock to yield its water. Repeat after me. Order the rock to yield its water. So order the rock. So there's a rock. He said, give him an order. I order you, rock, to yield its water. So that rock has water, and you're ordering for it to yield. And if it's yield, if you're in a traffic sign that says yield, what are you supposed to do? You slow down if there is no traffic. Okay, you go. But if there is, you stop. Let it. There's a yielding. When I looked at the word yielding, it had a direct connection with cultivation. The earth yields its fruit. So there's a sense of you bring forth as a natural product, especially as a result of cultivation. So somehow the rock, you order it, but the rock somehow will yield it, will naturally flow out of it. All right? So now let's compare it with what Moses did. You be the theologians here. I want you to make the observations. Okay, so he and Aaron, it's okay, Aaron, that's one. Assemble the community, okay, that was another one. In front of the rock, okay, the rock. He took his staff, okay, check. All right, all the elements are there, right? The staff, the assemble, and Aaron. All right, in front of the rock. Now, this is what he said. Now, mindful, what did God tell Moses to do? Just order the rock to yield its water. Didn't say to talk to the people or say anything to the people. Just gather them, assemble, Aaron, staff, order the rock. Yield your, order the rock, yield its water. That's it, right? What did Aaron do? He says here, he and Aaron assembled the community in front of the rock, where he said to them, not to the rock, to the people, listen to me, you rebels. Whoa, 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 whoa. Where did that come from? That's the introduction. Listen to me, you rebels. And by the way, it has an exclamation mark after you rebels. So there's a lot of passion here. You could almost sense whatever frustration and grieving that he's going through. One of the typical things of grieving is moments of anger. And he's taking all that anger into the community now. He's directing it to them. Listen to me. Is there something wrong there? Listen to me. This is not listen to what God is going to do or see what, because if God didn't ask him to say anything that the people should listen to, something to see. Something will be listened to. Well, maybe come, assemble, and see how God provides for your needs. No. Listen to me, you rebels. Now, let me put a little footnote to make it a little more personal and perhaps something that fits more our modern times. Let's say you're disciplining your children. We got a little smile over there. When you're disciplining your children, well, it's important that you do. And I would say it's a God-given commandment for you to raise your children, to discipline, to raise them to be good, holy men and women. How you do it. It's not what. You have the authority and the obligation to discipline, to raise your children to become great, but how you do it. Listen to me. You rebels. Careful. Let's continue. What else did he do? Are we, now he's bringing Aaron into the picture, are we to bring water for you out of this rock? Am I supposed to do something impossible for you? Me. Well, actually, in this case now it's a we. Perhaps now father and mother are included in the picture, in the discipline picture. Now we got father and mother. Okay. Then it says, okay, let's go back to what did God say? Just order the rock and it will yield its water. What did did Moses do after all this? Listen to me, you rebels, we're to bring water for you. For you, out of this rock, asking us to do something impossible. Then, raising his hand, careful, that's clear language of violence. Raising his hand, and then it says, Moses struck the rock twice with his staff. Was there any order from God saying strike the rock and twice? Raising his hand? Moses struck the rock twice with his staff. And water gushed out in abundance for the people and the livestock to drink. You see the difference? It's not just what we do, and what we do must be God's will. But how we do it is also important. And there we have to keep our own inner intentions on check, our own emotions. If you're grieving, careful. You have to be sensitive to the conditions where your heart is at and how you can easily react in negative ways. And perhaps not the death of a loved one. Perhaps you lost something like respect, esteem from the community who's now is accusing you. Maybe you lost the job, maybe you lost about to lose the house, the car, or maybe you're losing your own health, your own security, your own safety, your own well-being. Grieving comes in so many ways. Careful when you grieve something and how it naturally builds upon us anger, and careful that the anger is not being lashed out to someone in the name of God. Careful, not just what we do, but how we do it. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you were not faithful. Notice, he did in some way what God asked him, the water is coming out of a rock, but because he did it in the how that was not in any way showing of the sanctity of God, because you were not faithful to me in showing forth my sanctity before the children of Israel, you shall not lead this community into the land I will give them. So today's first reading, this is Numbers chapter 20, verse 1 to 13. A classic reminder for us, we are to do God's will, what he's asking us to do, but careful about how we do it, so that in the end, in doing what he asks, but not how he's asking, we may lose the promises that God has given us.